sound down would be great. Okay. All right, 6 o'clock. Let's start the meeting of Police Commission meeting of May 20th, 2020. Minutes from the previous meetings, April 15th. Any additions, corrections? I saw none.
No, I see none.
Okay. Like a motion to accept those? Yes.
Move to accept.
All those in favor? Aye. Those are accepted. Minutes from April 21st. Any corrections?
None here.
None. A motion to approve? So moved. So moved. And then minutes from the April 23rd meeting. I saw no admissions or corrections there. Motion to approve?
So moved.
So moved. Okay, good. Okay. Monthly reports. Chief.
Sure. The
You're
first,
up.
thank you. I can pull it up. Let's see. Maybe not. Okay.
There you go, Jim. Now I can.
So the first report I have is our budget year to date. So overall, we should be at 83.30 and 78.30, which is about a 5% short from where we should be. So that's good. We have a surplus of 5% right now, but that's all dependent on if all items are posted by the finance department. I don't really have any concerns about our budget. And we're tracking overtime is actually below budget, so it's all good news budget-wise.
Okay.
Next budget I have is our animal control budget, and that's at 71.50, so that's also under budget. So that's also good news. Any questions?
No.
Next report I have is our monthly statistics. I'll just kind of highlight some trends. We had 17 larcenies from motor vehicles so far this year versus 2 last year. So that's a huge increase. And I say it every meeting, and I say it every chance I get to the public, that people just aren't locking their cars, and they're leaving their keys in their cars that are getting stolen. And
Right.
If you lock your car, your stuff's probably not going to get stolen. We did have a window broken on a vehicle and a lot of items stolen in it. I suspect because the thieves came in and they saw so much valuable items left in the car that they decided to break the window and take everything. But that's not the norm. The norm is if the car is locked, they move on to the next driveway for easier picking, so to speak.
Right.
Next item I'll identify is our medical assist calls. They're up slightly, 452 versus 431. And a lot of that's related to the whole COVID pandemic we're in, and our officers are doing a great job. They're out there responding to these very often difficult medical calls and putting themselves at risk to help the community. So good work by everyone. Next item I'll identify is motor vehicle accident property damage, 75 versus 124. And I suspect a lot of that's due to the decreased traffic significantly. But that's certainly good news that we're seeing less property damage accidents. And I'm sure as the traffic increases in town, as people get more comfortable and they stop quarantining at home, we'll probably see more activity. And along with that, we're starting to ramp up our enforcement activity to just kind of get everybody aware and ready to be safe as they're driving on the roads with all the walkers and bikers and everyone out. And we're putting word out to our folks to be as visible as possible and to try to get our motorists driving a little bit more safely. We're getting some complaints in that regard. Next item I'll highlight is motor vehicle accident injury, 12 versus 13. So that's a slight decrease. Injury accidents are something we're always wanting to decrease and focus on. So you'll see that in the coming months as things become more normal. And next item, which substantial increase, which I predicted was going to happen, is psychiatric problems, 19 versus 7. So it's a big increase from last year. And I think we'll continue to see that as people feel anxiety and stress and underlying behavioral health issues come out as a result of the pandemic, the stress that everybody's feeling. So those are just part and parcel of the things that our officers are out there doing each day and dealing with sometimes very often difficult situations. So good work by all in that regard. Any questions on the statistic report?
Yeah, and yeah, under stolen vehicles, same thing, 6 versus 1. You know,
That's right.
5 and yeah,
And those are all
same thing.
keys in the vehicle. So
Yeah,
people just put their keys in and lock their car, it wouldn't get stolen and their property wouldn't be stolen. So it's pretty simple crime prevention. But we'll keep messaging it out there, and maybe at some point there'll be an epiphany and everybody will stop doing what they've been doing, but we'll be persistent about it. Next report I have is our domestic violence data, and that hasn't really seen a substantial increase. In fact, we've seen a decrease, 13 versus 16 family dispute calls, and those aren't all domestic violence. And I think the concern from our domestic violence advocates is they're just not getting the calls they used to get, and people just aren't calling. So that's certainly a big concern. So I think the theory is that domestic violence is relatively constant, and if you're seeing a decline, it's probably because people aren't reaching out for help. So that's certainly a concern of ours. But so that little summary sheet you see, 2020 versus 2019,
Yep.
It kind of breaks it all down by the month and number of disputes and all that, and dual arrests and children involved and all that stuff. And for the most part, most of these incidents involve substance use and behavioral health issues and underlying problems that bring out and cause domestic violence. So those are all things that we continue to deal with and try to effectively handle. Next report I have is our staffing report. And we saw a 26.48% decrease in related to all our lost time. And that's lower than the last couple of months, same year. So that's certainly good news. Minimum shift is also better than it's been. It's 45.60. And our newest officers, literally earlier this month, several of them completed their field training and they're now assigned to a shift on their own. And so that certainly will be beneficial moving forward for our staffing issues that we've been having. And we still have that one opening. We did extend our offer to that candidate, and he accepted it. We just have some other items to button up before we can finalize that and swear that new officer in. But that's a forthcoming item. And no real concerns regarding staffing. We're almost up to the strength, and this time all goes well. By the end of the year, we'll be up full strength. Next report I have is our extra duty aging report. Concern there is a pretty substantial number. It's over 120, 153,000. So that's certainly a lot of money. It's unusual, and I'll ask our CFO why that's happening. There's a couple of vendors there that seem to have the bulk of that money, but having 153,000 over 120 is not a good thing to see. So I'll ask that question tomorrow, and I'll report back with a response. Next item is the false alarm
yeah,
agent.
it looked like,
Go ahead.
Chief, it was Burns and Eversource, right? Burns was big.
Yeah, that's the bulk of it, right?
Burns?
Yeah, and I'm
Yeah.
not sure why that is. I mean, it seems unusual for a large construction company to not have paid up and the money to be outstanding that long.
Yeah, because they get paid from Eversource. It's not like they're not, but that's concerning because they are a local paving company and. I
Yeah.
don't know.
I'll get an answer, hopefully get an answer tomorrow, and
Okay,
hopefully we'll see a substantial difference next month. False alarm aging,
Okay.
see the over 120 is a fair amount too, and I'll ask some questions about that to find out what, if anything, is being done to try to better collect that. those are all, revenue that the town can
Yep.
use, given the COVID crisis and potentially future budget shortfall that we might see. So I'll ask some questions tomorrow about that. And that is all I have
Okay.
for monthly reports.
Great. Okay, let's move on to topics for discussion. Park Street. Deputy Chief, is that yours? John?
Can be, sure, yeah, Reverend Chapin.
We saw the emails, right?
Yeah.
Were you talking with them, right?
Yes, they want to close Park Street, the one-way section on top of God's Acre for, what was it, an hour and a half for outdoor Sunday services, with everything going on and the reopening of everything and trying to do everything outside and maintain social distancing. It's a reasonable request. Most of the other churches in town have their own property and have the ability to expand outdoors into parking lots and whatnot, but the Congregational Church doesn't have that luxury, and they were requesting if we could close Park Street during those hours, 8:30 to 10, which is in my opinion very reasonable. It's a very easy detour around. It's not a state road or anything like that, so it wouldn't be too difficult for us to manage that. I don't even know that we would even need to have to hire an officer or station an officer out at that intersection. Maybe we would for the first day just to see how it goes, but I think it'll be a pretty easy and non-impactful to traffic in town.
Okay. Any discussion, Jim?
Here's
Full
something
disclosure,
to
I go to Congregational, so.
Okay. I couldn't hear what John was saying. Does John have a recommendation?
Yeah, he recommended that it's not a problem. And we'll try it for, I don't know, we'll try it for the summer or so. I don't think it's going to go into certainly won't probably happen when it's cold. But
No, and they said they would try to do it rain or shine, but obviously if the weather doesn't cooperate, they might have to postpone it. But they were working together with other churches in the community to make sure that everybody had a kind of a level playing field, a fair playing field, and everybody was kind of on the same page. And it sounds like everybody's working together as much as they can. The only other church is the Baptist church over
yeah,
the
That's
crossroad there, Cherry Street.
I forgot.
But they were going to work together and try to reach out to them and see if they could participate, or perhaps somewhere on one of the other churches' grounds. But it sounds like they're all working together, and I haven't gotten any other requests, but we'll handle them as they come up.
Okay, good. Shikaiba,
Um,
thoughts?
yeah, I think it's a good idea because you definitely want people
Okay.
safe, and especially if they don't have the space. And I don't think anybody uses that road that much. So and the hours are perfect, 8:30 to 10. So
Yeah, on a Sunday, right.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's have a motion to accept this. The motion
moved.
is, okay. A second, Shikaiba? You're the second then. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Jennifer, you got that? Yeah,
Got
Got
it.
it.
Yes, I
Okay.
have it. Thank you.
thank you. Next item, COVID-19 update.
Yeah, I mean, we'll keep this on the agenda probably for several months until things really
Yeah.
slow down substantially. But as you know, today was the first phase one of Connecticut's reopening, and some stores are reopened in town. And probably next week, the plan will be in place for extended restaurant seating once all the safety barriers get in place and all that. And so as town gradually reopens, we're also increasing our presence in the center of town. We're going to try to get officers on foot and on bicycle who's an officer on bicycle today, to try to get more of a presence in town, and as people get more comfortable and start coming into town more than they have been. And certainly we're seeing a decline to some degree of the positive cases, but we believe that's due to the state system not being up to par, and we may see a big glut of cases come in that are positive people that live here. So we're waiting for that to happen in the next few days. If hopefully it won't happen, but we're expecting the state to push out a bunch of cases that they were holding and hadn't been able to consolidate. So that's a likely item. But otherwise, things are going well. We have plenty of PPE. Good work by Captain Walsh and kind of coordinating that and getting it all together. We ordered several different kinds of permanent masks for our officers that we'll distribute to them, that they can wash and reuse, and they're not the surgical or the N95. They're other kinds of masks that they'll be able to wear and keep themselves safe and also continue to reuse. So we're trying to think through that, and we continue to kind of adjust our practices as as this changes. And I think we're in a good spot now, and I think everybody's we've been very lucky. Our department's been very healthy, and I think that's largely due to a town-wide good planning and good practices being put in place to keep everybody safe. So we're pretty happy about that. But certainly we'll continue to have medical calls, and some of them involve COVID positive people. So we continue to take precautions and do our best to protect our officers. So it's something we've never experienced before, and hopefully never experience again. And all good, if all goes well in the next 6 months or so, this will be over with, and it'll be history for us, something to learn from, and hopefully won't repeat again. So it's all good work by our officers in a very difficult, stressful time.
On the governor's call this afternoon, I heard a few minutes of it, and they were talking about the restaurants being open, and the questions to the governor were, what happens if people start getting confrontational, in front of a restaurant, you don't have your mask on, you have your mask on, you're getting too close. And the response was sort of, well, we'll let the local police enforce it, and health officials take care of things like that, or dial 211. So if you got a problem, call 211. They're going to solve all your problems. But there was an emphasis on local policing as well. And I know you've been working, all three of you have been working with everybody out on patrol on how best to handle that. And I think is everybody pretty much up to speed as to what to do when something happens?
Well,
So that we're not
we did address it yesterday.
tickets and dragging people downstairs.
No. So we did address it yesterday at our staff meeting with the lieutenants yesterday that, we expected them to be the voice of reason and the voice of calm, and present a calm and professional tone whenever they respond to these, and understand that people are going to be heightened with anxiety, both patrons and restaurant staff. And there's likely going to be some sort of confrontations or some sort of disputes, and that we have to be the voice of reason when we get there and show up in the voice of calm. So the message is out there, and we will certainly monitor that and stay on top of that. We're anticipating that it'll happen, so hopefully we can respond appropriately.
I mean, we do intend to rely heavily upon our health director. If there are violations or problems in a restaurant or something that's governed by her, we'll encourage her to withdraw the permit and won't allow them to operate if that happens to be a habitual issue. So we, as John said, we really have no desire to start enforcing social distancing rules or other rules related to the pandemic. But if there's a crime occurs, somebody's assaulted or something happens, that's a typical criminal behavior. We'll handle that as we do appropriately. We're hopeful everybody is reasonable and balanced. And so far, our officers have done an exceptional job. We've gotten lots of complaints about various issues, and they've handled them exceptionally well across the board. So we expect that to continue.
Just for clarity, I take it that the social distancing rules, maintaining 6 feet, wearing a mask at certain places and times, those are not criminal laws. Is that correct?
Oh, they could be. I think under the governor's order, there could be a misdemeanor or a felony or infraction or some kind of violation of the local order, but they could be, but we're not going to enforce it like that. If you've seen the news, there's been other agencies in bigger cities that have gotten in actual fights with people to arrest them for social distancing, and we have no desire to get into that kind of dynamic with people. So
But
there's other ways to
I
handle it.
agree with that. I'm not.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. I'm just out of, for clarity's sake, I'm just wondering, is it a criminal violation if you don't follow one of these rules? I thought they were more in the nature of public health.
Yeah, like a,
I don't know what they are.
I think if you read the latest iteration of the governor's rule, I think it pretty much says you have to wear a mask unless you can social distance, and there's exceptions if you have a medical issue and you don't have to provide a doctor's note. But technically, a violation of that could be seen as a violation of the governor's order, which is under the state statutes a crime. So, but I haven't heard of any jurisdiction in Connecticut enforcing that or needing to, and we have no desire to
Yeah,
engage in that kind of enforcement.
right. And then second question I had is, I didn't see the governor's telecast today. I assume the people sitting at the restaurant, they don't wear a mask, right? They're eating, so they
Yeah,
can't, they don't wear a mask when they're sitting at the restaurant tables.
I
Is that
think
correct?
I think what they're telling them to do is when you come in the restaurant, you should have a mask on. If you're getting up to use a restroom or go somewhere in the restaurant or inside, you should have a mask on. But when you're seated at the table, no. But if you're going to interact with someone other than people at your table, I think the expectation is you have a mask on. And that's certainly a health department enforcement mechanism there. And she's got a lot of leverage. If restaurants aren't following those kind of protocols, she could withdraw their health permit and wouldn't allow them to operate anymore. So that's a good mechanism and hopefully won't be necessary. But that's another avenue that could be looked through.
Okay,
good. Yeah, and there was always that confusion of what's required and what's recommended, you know.
Right. That's right.
It seems to be required now as opposed to recommended.
Yeah. I mean,
All right,
there's a reasonableness to it all, I think.
good. All right, let's move on. Building renovation update?
Yeah, so we've had this on our agenda for months because it's so important that we
Years.
years. Yeah, well, actually, physically on our PC agenda for months and months,
Right.
just
Right,
to keep it front and center of how important it is to get our building renovated. And we have some good ballpark numbers. We know through the several different options, the best option right now is renovate our existing building. We know approximately what that's going to cost, and we're ready to move forward with it. There probably isn't a better time given the bond rates, and probably the construction industry is pretty excited about
They're
getting
looking
work
for
like
it,
this. So it's probably the best time ever to do it. And Captain Walsh did a draft of a memo regarding the West Cog analysis, and I'm going to look at that tomorrow and pass that along. But generally, West Cog, which is that organization that was commissioned to study the facilities and the needs of, I think, Weston, Wilton, Ridgefield, New Canaan, and see if there was any kind of sharing that possibly could happen. And really hasn't generated anything that we believe will save cost or would increase service to the community. And the only item there is a shared range or training facility. And that wasn't really discussed in the report or memorialized or funded, or there was really little analysis done in that regard. So none of the report is really helpful for for us and for what we need to do for our department and our town.
Agreed. And for Shikaiba's interest or background here, this has been going on for quite a while. Captain Walsh Captain, how many months have you been involved with the Westcog people? About, because this was not a light study. This was a,
Yeah, this was several months, about 6 months, I believe. We looked into it. We had several meetings and
yeah.
did a lot of data polls, a lot of work between the agencies, the 5 agencies. We looked at PSAP dispatch consolidation, property and evidence storage, processing and detention center, training classroom facility, gym workout facility, and firearm range. And the company was Winborn Consulting, LLC. It's a national company. And, you know, they did most of their research and their work was on the PSAP and dispatch side, which doesn't really fit our community-based policing model. You know, we like to have one of our officers answering the phone and have local knowledge of what's going on to the caller. So that doesn't really fit our model. Plus, we just updated our own dispatch facility just a couple of years ago, so it's got all the modern workings that the Deputy Chief Federico headed that project, and he could give you more info on that. But it just doesn't fit a cost savings model for us right now. Property and evidence storage is one of those things that, you know, the best practice is for chain of custody and for CALEA accreditation is to have all your property and evidence, you know, on site. So we don't want to regionalize that. Processing and detention center, you know, among the 5 towns that were used in the study, we have a relatively low prisoner intakes, making any sort of a detention facility very cost prohibitive. It just doesn't make sense. And as far as a training classroom facility, that could work if it was teamed up with the firearms range. Otherwise, it just wouldn't be used enough, and it's better to have a training classroom within your own building to have small training sessions for 2 hours or 3 hours or even less at times with your officers. So you want that to be in your building anyway. And as far as a gym workout facility, you know, that's the kind of thing that you don't want your officers to have to commute to another location to when they're already commuting to work. As you know, most of our officers don't live in town. So we want to make sure that we have a workout facility like we do now within the building. And I think the chief already touched on the firearms facility. As of right now, we don't have an outside location that we could use that came out of the study. They didn't do a detailed analysis of the locations that we could use. So that didn't provide any information for us to use at this point. So as far as I can see out of the study, we're still going to have another follow-up meeting with them. That's been pushed back due to COVID-19. We're looking to have a meeting probably next month is my guess, if everybody can be a part of it from the different agencies and the consulting company. And as far as that, I would say we should recommend and move forward with you know, forming your building committee for the police department.
That'd be great. Yeah. Good. Letters of appreciation. Let's go through those.
Sure.
Quickly.
This is, you know, one of the best parts of the meeting when we have a chance to kind of highlight the great work of our officers. So the first letter I have is for Officer Patton, who met with, I suspect, remotely and discussed issues related to safety that the Board of Realtors were having. And they felt empowered by his message, and they're very appreciative of him taking the time to talk with them and give them some good advice. Next incident I have, which is a thank you to several officers who responded to a medical assist call. Officer Gibson, Caponera, and Chanella. They did a great job at a call where someone was injured and frankly probably saved the individual's life. It's a pretty severe injury, and they did a great job handling that. And the gentleman was so appreciative that he sent pizzas. So we always like to see that. And last letter I have is for Sergeant Mitchell and Sergeant Romano. That's from Captain Walsh, thanking them for their work related to EOC supplies and PPE. And he commented they're great team members and efficient and motivated, and thanked them for their good work and help in managing the whole inventory that we have. We're managing it for the whole town. So good work across the board in that regard.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's good, that. Any other matters to discuss in open session? No.
Nope.
Chief, you have much for personnel matters for executive session?
I don't have anything.
Yes?
No.
Yeah, I don't have any.
Nope. There's none.
John? Andy? Okay, so there's no need for executive session then tonight. Shikaiba, normally we close the public meeting and then go into an executive session, just like in any other committee in town or commission in town. And then we come out of executive session and then end the meeting. So pretty straightforward tonight. Okay,
Thank you.
well, welcome. You made it through. Yeah.
I do have one quick question for Shikaiba.
Yeah.
Tomorrow is the domestic violence luncheon. I don't know if you virtually, if you're going to attend or not. But they had asked, because it's a pay per view, so it's a each viewer has to have a unique email to log into it. So they're going to send you the link. I don't think you have your town email set up. Can I get your
Not yet.
permission? Is it okay if I give them your Gmail?
You can, but I was just wondering what time it was, because I'm at work during
Okay.
because I work every day from 9 to 3. So it would be really difficult for me
Okay.
to attend a luncheon. I think I saw something, was it like, if I'm not mistaken, was it around 1?
I have.
11:45.
11:40. Okay.
Yeah.
No,
It's okay.
yeah.
Okay,
'Cause,
that's all right. No, there's no pressure.
No, because the thing is, I teach at Greenwich High School, so I have all my students online. I go back
Yeah.
and forth between classes and Zooms and meetings.
Of course.
Yeah. Sorry.
No problem. And just a final note to everyone.
You guys, we're still recording. Do you want me to just end the meeting and then?
No.
Okay.
Yeah,
Just a final note to everybody. Memorial Day is Monday. Sadly, we can't have a parade this year because of the pandemic, but if everyone could take a few minutes to remember those brave men and men and women who've given their lives for our country on Memorial Day, that'd be a great thing. And we're going to try to reinforce that for our entire town. That's all I have.
was Kevin going to give some kind of address
Yeah.
that was going to be taped?
Yep, it was taped, and it'll be played, I believe, Monday twice, once in the morning, once in the afternoon. It's a pre-recorded ceremony. Everybody was social distancing, and it's pretty comparable to what's done every year, except it didn't involve a crowd and was pretty concise.
Good. But we put a color guard? We had a color guard there?
No, we didn't have a color guard. We wanted to
Did the
keep it
police?
for 5 or 6 people, so that's
Oh.
how big it was. Color guard would have been even
That's the best.
exceeding social distancing. So next year, if all goes well.
Okay, all right. Yeah, next year for sure. Okay, let's, unless there's any other business, motion to adjourn. Second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much. Good
Thank
night.
you.
Thank you. Good night.